Hello, and welcome to this Smiths Interconnect webinar. My name is Katie, and I will be your Global Spec moderator. And I would like to review a few housekeeping items with you before we begin. Please take a moment to familiarize yourself with the operation of the user interface for today's webinar. The large window with the heading Presentation in the upper left is the primary window for today's webinar. Just to the right of the main presentation window is the Speaker Bio window, with background information on today's presenters. Just below that is the Q&A window. At any time during the presentation, you can enter a question into the box in the lower section of the window and click Submit. Your question will be placed in the queue to address when we get to the Q&A session. At the bottom of your screen, you will see additional buttons to enhance your webinar experience. To see what a particular button does, just place your mouse pointer over it and a tooltip will appear with a description of the button's function. Now let me introduce today's presenters and go over today's agenda. With us today, we have Daniel Ratzlaff. Daniel is the Global Product Line Manager of Medical at Smiths Interconnect. Also with us today is Robert Fried. Robert is an electrical engineer at Smiths Interconnect. So today's agenda is going to include exploring current trends in medical device engineering for traditional coax solutions. We're also going to learn about grid array solutions, what they are and how they work. And we're going to discover how Smiths Interconnect can address emerging marketing demands. Then we will have an open discussion and a Q&A session. So before we get started today, there is a polling question I would love to ask all of you. So our polling question today: while designing a system for safety-critical applications, how important is the choice of a reliable connector to the overall architecture of the design? So for all of our attendees, if you would place your answer in one of the three options we have listed below, that would be wonderful. So we have the first option, extremely important, hence considered at early stages of the design, somewhat important and considered at mid stages of the design, or not important and considered at later stages of the design. So again, I'm going to go ahead and read that polling question one more time, and if everybody could submit their answer, we would love that. Feedback is always appreciated. While designing a system for safety-critical applications, how important is the choice of a reliable connector to the overall architecture of the design? I will give you guys all another minute or two to answer. And the three options we have: extremely important, hence considered at early stages of the design, somewhat important and considered at mid stages of the design, or not important and considered at later stages of the design. Again, I'll give everybody another minute or so to submit their answer. All right, thank you everybody who has submitted an answer so far. So Daniel, I'm going to pass things off to you so that you can speak about our polling results and get this webinar started. So Daniel, go right ahead.
All right. Make sure you can all hear me. Thank you, Katie, and thank you all for answering. As always, interesting results. As we start to talk today, it is important to remember the earlier you consider your connectors, the more options that will be available to you without impacting your design work. So it's one of those things. I'm glad to see that everyone's here kind of answering pretty early on in the stage, as we can usually implement solutions without hurting your already done work if we get in early enough. So on to the trends. Today we're going to just give a brief overview of the trends impacting traditional coax in the medical market, and we're going to be kind of looking at this from an MRI imaging space. But overall, again, most of these applications will apply to other imaging systems as well. First, we have up the emergence and growth of the portable MRI imaging systems. Now, for a point of clarification, we are not talking about the traditional mobile MRI system that requires a semi-truck to move from point to point. These are new systems that can be moved from room to room by a single person. Portable MRIs represent one of the fastest growing submarkets in the MRI market, with a CAGR, or compound annual growth rate, of 7% versus 4% for the general market. They provide a significantly lower cost solution that is much easier to use. And they also have a significant number of advantages for the patient, including the patient doesn't have to be moved from room to room, and they can remain attached to most of the equipment. In fact, unlike traditional MRIs, Doctors and nurses can remain in the room as well during the procedure. Due to the portable nature and low power requirements, they can serve populations that don't have access to traditional healthcare infrastructure. And some machines run off as little as traditional wall plug-in power, making them very accessible. They're also a very low-cost solution compared to traditional MRIs in about every way. They do not have expensive installs. They do not have expensive power requirements. They are easy to maintain, and they do not require specialized staff. So how does this impact the connector used on these systems? The biggest impact is there's much less space for traditional interconnect solutions, both internal and external connections, due to the size. This means smaller connectors to be used that means smaller connectors that can use the space available, even if it's a non-traditional shape or size. On to the next trend. The increased use of large bore or open bore MRI systems. So larger bore or bigger holes for the patient, or open bore, the patient is essentially not placed in a tube, are seeing an increased use due to the significantly increased patient comfort and the ability to serve a larger population. And market-wise, this is also going faster than the general market, with a 5% growth rate versus a 4%. The reason for this growth is the significantly improved comfort for the patient due to the larger bore, the lack of an enclosed bore. Personally, I've had family members who've had to be sedated to make it through an MRI due to claustrophobia. Next is it serves a much larger percentage of the population, whether it be the claustrophobics that just cannot stand the procedure or patients too large for traditional MRIs. Open and large bore machines can accommodate these people, increasing the population served. They also provide improved imaging quality versus older systems due to increased field strength. Now, this is also true of new higher field strength MRIs as well, but here you get better images and improved comfort. So a win-win. And lastly, they tend to have faster turnover times versus traditional MRIs due to the ease of use and the fact that the patients tend to hold still better, preventing delays in the procedure. Again, what is the impact of the connector? Well, here we have, again, much less space. Beds are lower to the floor. There's less real estate available for traditional connectors, again, because of the changes in design. So again, the connector must be smaller and make much better use of the space available. There's also an increased use or increased electromagnetic noise due to higher field strength. You're seeing more electronics, more data. And this is, again, just a general issue with the MRI world in general. On to some general trends in the technologies. First, we have increased field strength. The FDA has cleared MRIs with field strength up to 7 Tesla, and research devices are sitting out there with field strengths of 10 Tesla. And this will continue to expand and grow as new MRI coils are developed to support these systems and as they're introduced onto the hospitals. AI, artificial intelligence, has also been introduced, and this has resulted in reduced exam times, better workflows, and improved diagnostics. So more patients, more cycles, less time. There's also an increase in MRI safe implants, especially pacemakers being used in the field, meaning that there will be an increase in MRI eligible populations, as these devices traditionally would have disqualified a patient from receiving an MRI. There are also a couple global trends that have impacted recently, primarily COVID-19, which resulted in a significant impact to both the install and procedures for the imaging market, as people avoided hospitals and non-elective surgeries were canceled. But this was a short-term loss, and a projected boost in procedures is expected due to post-COVID complications and the required assessments. Next, we have aging populations in the APAC region. This will drive an increase in procedures as healthcare infrastructure continues to expand and disposable incomes increase. And lastly, MRI systems are very expensive. They have a very high barrier to entry, especially the high field strength systems. So this will again put cost pressures to make them more accessible to emerging markets and just the market in general. So, impact to the connectors. For one, there'll be cost pressures. Next, due to the reduced exam time, increased number of procedures, and connectors will need to last longer in the field. So, in summary, medical connectors are used in a variety of ways on MRI systems or other imaging systems and their accessories. They can providing connections between the beds, coils, internal interconnects, and cables to control systems. The trends and impacts to this market can be summarized as follows. 1, density. We need smaller, higher density connectors due to the increased data and decreased space. 2, durability. Due to the high use rate and long field life of these products, we need connectors that can survive the high cycle counts. 3, robustness and integrity. Rugged designs are needed to survive the constant use and abuse, patients getting on and off of them, and being maintained over a very long lifespan, especially considering the critical nature of the device. And 4, customization. Connectors need to be able to provide the right performance, size, and cost for the application at hand without providing unwanted features. So now we've covered some of the market trends for this and impacting the connectors in space. Let's look at grid array solutions, what they are, how they work, and why you should use it. I'll now turn over to Robert, one of our engineers.
Thanks, Dan. I've been working with Smiths as an electrical engineer for the last decade with a specialization in signal integrity design and analysis. Hopefully I can give you some insight into the grid array technology. What is a grid array in terms of an interconnect device? It is an array of electrical contacts designed inside an insulative material in such a way as to carry current for either power, digital, or analog signals. Regarding digital and analog signals, contacts are arranged on a grid to resemble traditional coax contacts to yield the benefits of coaxial configurations. Each coax channel has a single signal contact with multiple surrounding ground return contacts. This resembles a traditional coax in that it has a single signal contact but is surrounded by a circular or axial shield. Consider the following example of an ideal coax compared to an ideal set of pins in an array. Below, you have a traditional coax on the left that has a single center conductor surrounded by an insulative material that is also surrounded by a shield conductor. On the right is a grid array coax with a single center conductor surrounded by 4 ground or return conductors within the same insulative material. Notice that apart from the insulative material, the size and profile are very similar. How does a grid array work? Viewing the cross-sections on a traditional coax, a signal current propagates through the signal pin and simultaneously returns to the source through the coax shield. This is typically called the return path. Similarly, on the ideal grid array coax, a signal current propagates through the signal pin and simultaneously returns to the source through the 4 return pins. If designed properly with a characteristic impedance as close to the system impedance as possible, which is typically 50 ohms, then either solution can yield favorable analog and digital performance. How does a grid array coax compare to a traditional coax? The comparison of the ideal coax versus the grid array coax shows that they can be virtually identical in performance through optimizing designs. In some instances, improvement in signal performance can be made with grid array solutions over their traditional coax counterparts. Below are the typical S parameter results that indicate an ideal insertion loss and return loss performance for both cases out to 1.5 gigahertz. This is an example of a custom grid array. This grid array layout shows multiple configurations that can be used for different purposes. The top configuration demonstrates the capability of transmitting digital signals from an Ethernet cable through our connector, as it is made up of 4 differential transmission lines. The second section from the top shows a whole line of contacts that represent 8 single-ended channels and what is called a 2A, or ground signal ground configuration, which can transmit analog or digital signals from a coax cable. Similar to this, the third section from the top shows an array of contacts that represent 9 channels in a 4B configuration, which has a single signal contact surrounded by 4 ground contacts for each channel. The 2A versus 4B configurations demonstrate the same level of transmission line performance with different degrees of crosstalk protection. The 4B yields better protection than the 2A, but these are not the only configurations that can be conceived. The bottom section demonstrates the standard method of transferring power through a connector using multiple contacts. Some of the benefits of choosing grid array over traditional coax solutions can be seen here. We can offer up to 50% reduction in size from coax solutions and up to 30% cost reduction from coaxial solutions, depending on performance requirements. These two benefits can be visually seen on the right with a grid array solution compared to a coaxial solution using our own products. Using different contact technologies, we can achieve high cycle life and extreme operating temperatures with stable DC, digital, and analog performance. On the left is an example of our customer test kits to showcase our capabilities in this regard. The layout of these kits was just discussed in the previous slide. In short, grid array solutions can be used as a favorable alternative to traditional coax solutions and can be customizable and robust enough to handle the demands of tailored performance at reduced costs. Thank you for listening to my part of the presentation. I'll now hand things back to Katie.
All right, thank you so much, Robert. So for all of our attendees, we do have another polling question. So the second polling question, we would love your feedback. As always, your feedback is important to us. So this is asking, what would be more important to you when you select a connector for shielded or RF performance? So the options that you can choose from are as follows: the reduced size, a high number of meeting cycles, stable signal integrity, or a customized solution. Again, our polling question, the second one we have for you today, what would be more important to you when you select a connector or shielded and RF performance? Now, first option is reduced size. Second one, high number of mating cycles. Third one, a stable signal integrity. And the fourth option is a customized solution. I will leave this up on the screen for a little while longer so that everybody can submit their answer. And one more time, the question, what would be more important to you when you select a connector for shielded and RF performance? Again, I'll leave that up on the screen for another couple seconds so we can have a few more people participate. All right, thank you everyone who has participated in this second poll. So Daniel, I am going to push over the results back to you so that you can talk about what we have here. Thank you everybody that participated. And Daniel, here are our results.
All right, thank you, Katie. And all right, again, thank you all for answering. Let me take a look at this. Again, I think over the next few slides, as we discuss why you use grid array, you'll see that we can address a good number of these, actually pretty much all at the same time. All right, so why would you get the slide? Oh, no, I didn't. So why would you use a grid array solution? Every new medical product must naturally provide a set of high performance and ensure the safety of the patient and staff. With outstanding contact resistance and more than 100,000 mating cycles with multiple contact technologies, we currently ensure the reliable transmission of power, high current, high voltage, RF signals and coax, and data for all medical applications. The introduction of grid array technology for the medical connectivity can provide a contact layout using these contact technologies to deliver RF performance, with the same signal integrity offered by cabled coax solutions, but at a vastly improved density, price, with a tuned performance. Next, we'll look at a few of the benefits for using this application in medical. One, grid array offers a reduced footprint, as Robert stated. With the increased density compared to traditional applications, depending on the performance requirements, we can cut size down by about 50%. Second is the improved cost of ownership. We offer lower cost contact systems that have very high mating cycles, like we said, over 100,000, that have a reduced chance of being damaged during cleaning, handling, or any other processing. Two, or another one, we reduce the risk to the staff with increased patient comfort by offering smaller and lighter connector solutions that, for example, allow MRI beds to be lower to the ground so it's easier to position the patient, and cables that are lighter on the patient. Next, we have better technical and value alignment to customer needs. Thanks to the ability to tune performance to the specific needs, you can get exactly what you want without anything else. And lastly, the solution is completely customizable in shape and size, which means we can make use of the space given and improve the ergonomics and aesthetics of the final device. Next, let's take a quick look at a comparison versus grid array solutions versus the traditional modular rectangular solutions that utilize coax, and then also a customized coax solution. So when we think of this, think of like our Smiths LMN series, if you've ever used that, and then the custom rectangular solutions, again, the custom designed solution using coax connectors. First up is customizable layout. As you can see, customizable solutions and fully customizable solutions for grid array will always win over your off-the-shelf when it comes to flexibility and customization. The off-the-shelf solution often requires you to pick modules that may not have specifically what you want or may have a lot more than you want. Next up is customizable shape and size. Again, the traditional solution leaves you with a standard shape and no ability to change it. Grid array offers a distinct advantage over custom coax solutions due to the increased density and flexible nature of the contact systems, allowing you, again, an advantage in getting that shape for your device. Next is cycle life. With grid array, you can utilize either a hyperboloid solution from Smiths or a spring probe solution, both of which offer over 100,000 cycles or more. Traditional coax and off-the-shelf solutions really just can't live up to that requirement with cycle life. Up next is tunable performance, or the ability for the customer to tune performance. Again, with off-the-shelf, you kind of get what you get with the modules. In traditional coax, you get what you can get with the contact systems available. Grid array allows the performance to be tuned to a much greater degree due to the ability to change and shape that pattern, and also we can mix contact systems. Now, next we have ingress protection. This isn't something that's terribly common in connectors like these for off-the-shelf solutions, but with grid array, you can design this to provide a great level of ingress protection because you have the choice of contact solutions, so this can be very much improved. For example, using targets on one side with a spring probe solution that can be completely sealed. Now, next we have off-the-shelf. Naturally, any customized solution is not going to be available immediately, and it will require some back and forth. This is why the question at the beginning is so important to engage early to start these discussions to prevent impact to lead times or to your development schedules to implement a solution like this. And lastly, up is flexible terminations. Both grid array and customized solutions offer a variety of termination solutions. Off the shelf, you may have some selection, but it's going to be limited. Okay, so how could Smiths help with this? We have two great connector series that serve as an initial platform for customization. The first up is our HyperGrip series. The HyperGrip series is designed to support medical applications from the start. It offers a simple push-pull, one-hand demating. It comes in 6 keying options. Our keying system is based off of a fixed keyway with a rotational insulator. So customized solutions will effectively have 6 keys at the start. Along with the keys, it does come in 5 different colors to prevent mismating or quick identification. And it also comes with an IP65 when-mated seal base. The connector is sterilizable, supporting steam autoclave, ethylene oxide, and Sterab, north of 20 cycles. Next up, we have our D-Series. Again, this one comes with standard coaxial solutions as well as the ability to be customized. It is an easy push-button latch that is user-friendly with a D shape that, again, is friendly for preventing mismating. The connector comes in 3 sizes, the variety of contact counts for traditional applications, like all of the ones listed below. And this one also comes in autoclave compatible materials as well. Now, you can find out more about these connectors on our webpage. And with both of these connectors, we do have larger frames available coming shortly than what's listed on our webpage that allow for a greater number of contacts and customization. So keep your eyes open for those here in the near future. Now, no matter what, if you're using a fully customized solution or one of our standards, Smiths has a variety of contact technologies available to support this application. We can support high-density spring probes, which is stated, bring a very high-density contact system with over 100,000 cycles. We also have a custom hyperspring, which is a unique combination of a traditional spring probe and a hyperboloid socket. So you get the cleaning action during the mating, ensuring a stable, reliable connection across a harsh environment, and also a very high cycle life. And last but not least, we have our non-magnetic hyperboloid contacts, meant for the MRI imaging applications. Like our traditional hyperboloid contacts, these are high reliability, high cycle life contacts that offer very low insertion and extraction forces with a consistent electrical performance. This variant is also free of any materials that could distort magnetic flux and can support a very wide range of amperages. Like Robert said, we have development kits available. Because this is a new technology, we have built out development kits that can support some testing in the field. As we kind of demonstrated earlier, this is kind of what the kit looks like. It'll catch up, but speaking too fast today. At the top, we have Ethernet connections that will be available again to test your Ethernet performance. Below that, you have a 2A pattern. Then this is a coax connection, again, that requires, for applications require shielding, but can be a little bit more flexible on the performance when it comes to crosstalk. And at the bottom, we have the 4B pattern for improved crosstalk performance. This is going to be the best performance you can get that Robert talked about. And last, we included a number of power lines to help demonstrate the ability to carry power without impacting any of the signals around it. Again, we have a limited number of these kits, so if you are interested, please reach out through our website or through a local sales representative. So before we wrap up, just a little bit more about Smiths. We are a medical connection solutions provider that uses superior contact technologies ranging from the hyperboloid system to edge card solutions that provide optimum high reliability solutions. We're constantly developing new technologies and adapting existing solutions to meet emerging market needs for our customers. And we have application-specific expertise in all the applications on this page and more, allowing us the ability to design and build superior solutions for medical applications requiring performance, durability, and safety. Thank you very much for coming out today. We'll now move on to a Q&A.
All right. Daniel and Robert, thank you both so much for a great presentation. So as you mentioned, we are going to move into taking some questions from our attendees. For all of our attendees, if you have a question for us today, please go ahead and place it into the Q&A window and click submit. We will do our best to get through as many questions as we can. If you don't hear your question being answered, do not worry. We will reach out to you following today's webinar. Just a note for all of you as well, there are some resources listed in our resource list. So just below the presentation window, we have a box called Resource List. There are some items listed in there that you can take with you today. Feel free to grab those at any time during this Q&A session if you have not already. All right, so let's go to our first question, gentlemen. So I think, Daniel, this one can go to you. Does this mean we can create grid solutions for any application that uses the contacts mentioned?
Yes, Katie, thank you very much. Indeed, you can actually create grid array solutions using any of these contacts for multiple applications. For example, we have just recently launched a disposable version of our HG series. With that, you can use grid array inside, say, our disposable HG, or hypergrid, forgive me, in which case you would have essentially a disposable coax solution. So it can support across a wide range of applications.
All right, thank you so much for that answer. All right, so Robert, I think this next question can go to you. This person is asking, does this work for data speeds beyond 300 megahertz?
Sure, thanks for that question. Yes, grid arrays are used in many different applications. Smiths has catered to quite a few of them. In particular, we've served applications in interposer and backplane markets and semiconductor test solutions. that can guarantee a high level of performance encompassing frequency ranges from 0 to 70 gigahertz. And that would also include the 112 gigabit per second PAM4 data rates in some instances. So I believe that, yes, with the grid array solutions, you can achieve quite a bit of signal integrity performance.
All right, Robert, thank you so much for that answer. For all of our attendees, if you have a question today, please use that Q&A window, enter your question in there, and click Submit, and we will get to as many as we can. As a reminder, there's also a survey that's going to pop on your screen at the end of this webinar. If you could fill that out for us, we appreciate your feedback as always. All right, gentlemen, so we have one more in here. So for the attendees, if anybody has another question, now would be the time to ask. Otherwise, gentlemen, we have this one here next. Daniel, I think this is going to go to you. This person is asking, how can we terminate this solution? Does it support direct cable or PCB termination?
Yeah, there are two primary ways to terminate this interconnect solution. For one, you can terminate with PCBs, and this would probably be like a rigid flex rigid PCB, where one would connect to contacts to the rigid side of the PCB and wires to the other rigid side of this PCB. Well, this would give the benefit of being convenient and user-friendly during assembly, and it's also reworkable. The downside would be there would be some materials increase in cost, and there would also be a slight impact to the performance, the digital analog signals again across the PCB that's going to impact. Another way you can go about it is you can go with direct termination to the cables with soldering or crimping. And again, we offer both solder and crimp tails for our contact systems. This has the benefit of maintaining the higher electrical performance for analog and digital signals, and it doesn't add any material cost. The impact would be it does require labor, and the complexity of that labor or the complexity of that assembly varies depending on the solution being used. So you do have an impact to that. Again, with higher density, it becomes a little bit harder to work with. And that also, again, can impact rework as wires can get on top of each other pretty quickly.
All right, great. Thank you so much for that answer. All right, so we don't have any more live attendee questions at this time, so we'll give everybody just a minute or two to type in any questions. Your feedback is always important to us, so please ask any questions that you have now while we're live. All right, it looks like we just got another question popping in, gentlemen, so let's take this one as well. What is the maximum current for one contact?
Robert, I'll start, and you can feel free to add as we have there. I'll actually go back a couple slides because that might help answer the question. Depending on the contact solution used and the size of the contact, we have spring probes and hyperboloids and hyperspring. With spring probes and the hyperboloids, we can support between 4 and 50 amps per contact. And for spring probes, again, we have solutions that range up to 50 amps available. Robert, any additional?
No, you pretty much summed it all up. We have quite a few different contact technologies that can range in their performance for current ratings.
All right, gentlemen, thank you both so much for that answer. We'll give everybody just another minute. All right, it looks like we did just get another question, gentlemen, so let's take this one as well since we do have time. This person is asking, how is the product clean? What is the procedure?
For the spring probe technologies, again, that's pretty easy. You traditionally wouldn't want to, you don't have to do much cleaning on these. They don't require lubrication or anything of that nature. They do a pretty good job. Same with the hyperboloids. When it comes to cleaning around it, again, most of our solutions easily support all of the standard wipe down procedures. So no real change there when it comes to the hospital side. It would support all of the Virex, Chemex style wipe downs. Absolutely no impact there. The hyperbolates are very durable on the socket side. So again, pretty much impervious to any cleaning. Like I said, we've got hyperbolates and applications that see hundreds of autoclave cycles. Some out in the military world that see going into orbit and back kind of applications. So they can survive almost anything. For the spring probes, again, for the target side, it becomes very easy to clean as they are metal targets. They are not susceptible to damage in almost any way, unless you really get in there with something aggressive like a metal tool to scratch. So again, very easy to clean with all the traditional cleaning methods you'd find in a hospital.
All right, thank you so much for that answer. So that looks like all of the questions we have at this moment. So again, I will give everybody just another second or two to add in any last-minute questions they may have. And just a reminder, while we're waiting for any last-minute ones, there are those resources I mentioned listed just below the presentation window. 4 different resources in there as well. We also will have this webinar on demand, so you will be able to come back and watch this again. And if you think of any questions at that time, you will be able to ask any questions during our on-demand period. So gentlemen, it looks like that's all the questions for today. So we are going to start to wrap things up right now. I want to say a huge thank you to Daniel and Robert for giving a great presentation and for answering some of our attendees' questions. So gentlemen, thank you both very much.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for showing up today.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot.
All right, and thank you both so much. And a huge thank you to our audience members as well. You will be receiving an email from us with a link to the on-demand version of this presentation. You will be able to come back and watch us again or share it with colleagues. As I mentioned, there's some great resources in there for you, and you will be able to ask any questions that you can think of after today during our on-demand period. So I want to say a huge thank you again to our presenters and for everybody who attended today's webinar. Take care, and we will speak with all of you soon.